So I'm recording now, and as I just mentioned, I'm going to start with a lot of sketching and guides before I commit to anything. I'm going to really sketch out my walk cycle, and then I'm going to go back and add some stuff in. I'm going to try to keep it pretty simple so that it doesn't take up too much of our time today, but I'll go through all the basic poses. So I'm going to start with just a ground layer. This is always useful to ground ourselves in the scene. So I'll get a brush, and I might set the stroke to like 2, and I'm just going to draw my little ground here, and then I'm going to lock this so I can't edit it anymore and just leave it as is. Okay, so now I'm going to start with my first pose, and then from the first pose I'm going to create some guides to create the other poses. So I'm not going to start with guides quite yet, but I'm going to call this layer sketches. So I'll have the sketches for my poses, and then I'll go back in later and add some, what I tend to call inks, or like the final version. So now that I have my sketches layer, I'm going to change the color here. This is kind of up to you. I like to use this like sort of light blue color because that's what I use when I'm drawing on paper. I use those like little blue pencils. I always do that when I'm sketching and then inking later. So that's why I like to use the blue, because it kind of reminds me of that process. But you're welcome to use like a light gray or a different color. I'm just going to use this this light blue here. And I'm going to leave the stroke size at 1 because I'm going to be doing a lot of sketching. And so I'm going to be kind of like going over and adding stuff. So I don't want to overwhelm my whole, sketch. So I'm going to start with my character. I have this cat astronaut character, but to simplify things, I'm just going to work with the cat body today. For the demo purposes, again, I just want to be able to kind of go over things. So I'm going to kind of start with the cat head, and I want to do this a little bit larger than I might normally do it, because that'll give me more room to draw. So I'm going to draw the cat head pretty large to start, something like that. And it's about a quarter of the whole scene. It doesn't have to be, but that's kind of a good place to start. So the cat head, we are going to be facing this way, so I might kind of like emphasize the front a little bit depending on what the cat's going to look like. I'll play with that a little bit. And then I'll just draw an eye, and then I'll just draw like a little mouth like that, just to give it a little bit of a sense of personality. And then a part of my sketch was these big ears, so I'm going to draw the ears and kind of sketch those in so I'll be able to see where those should go. And then the body I had was basically just like almost like a pill shape, kind of like capsule shape, like that. And I might need to lower this a little bit, so I'm just going to erase down here. So I have like the basic body, and that's ultimately what I'm going to use for the guide. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but this is probably where I would spend some time to make sure I've got the proportions right. Of course, I can always go back and fix them if I need to. But I've got the basic body. I've got the cat leaning forward just a little bit in this one. That's kind of just how I did it. I'm not working on the emotion aspect of things yet, but we will do that in a little bit. So then the first pose that I'm going to start with is my contact pose. So I'm going to take a look at that, and just remember, I want my front foot facing forward, and then the back foot back, and have them contacting with the ground. And you can also add a little bit, you can see in this second contact pose, there's a little bit of a bend in the knee there. That's fine. Either way, you can have the straight legs or the slightly bent legs, depending on what you're going for. So I'm going to start with a leg here, and just like a really simple, like the foot is slightly up. And I don't really like that, so I'm going to try it again. And so the foot is up. And this is really just a quick sketch, just getting the basic look down. So we've got our front foot going like that, and then we'll have our back foot. And if you want to put like a slight bend, then you would come down here and then go back a little bit. If you want to go straight back, you would just go back a little bit and here. And we basically want it to feel very solid. We want it to feel very flat and solid on the ground. You know, depending on what you're going for. With this one, I'm going for basically just neutral. But then I also want the legs like basically below the body. So we're not like reaching really far forward. We're not reaching really far back. We're kind of in this like solid pose. I'm going to do a little bit of a leg bend here, like that. And then normally I'd spend a little bit more time like really working out these proportions, but I want to move forward for the demo purposes. So now we're going to have our arms, and basically the arms go in the opposite direction of the legs. So if our right leg is forward, then our left arm is going to go back. So we can just look at this reference, and so we'll have our arm going back. He might have some fingers. I don't know how like anthropomorphic my cat is at this point, if he has like fingers or if he has like little paws. So that's another thing I need to work out. But we can have a little arm going back like this, and then we'll have another arm going forward. You can see in Professor Pincus's examples, she's using different colors for the back and the foreground. I'm still just sketching, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. But I just want to kind of get these basic movements down. So we'll have one, you might see like the paw coming out a little bit like that. Something like that. We'll just like work this out a little bit. And then again, this is something where we can kind of emphasize stuff. My proportions are really whacked out. Okay, let's try this one more time. I don't want to spend too much time on this though. Okay. I'll come back to that one. I can't get that one right now. Okay, so let's keep going. I'm just going to erase a little bit here so we can see what that looks like, and I'll erase this part here and draw over that. Okay, and then we might have like a little hand coming out right there, something like that. Okay, so that's going to be our first contact pose, and then I'm going to hit F7 to go to our next pose. Here, we might want to turn on the onion skin so we can see the previous pose, or you might want to just make some guides. I also am going to make some guides to make it easier to do stuff later. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'll call this one guides. And I'm going to put this on our first frame actually, and turn off the onion skin for a second. And then like we did last week, I'm going to hold shift, and I'm just going to draw out from the eye right there. You might also want to put one at the top of the head. That could be useful. You can really do as many or as few of these as you want to at the different parts of the body that you want to line up. So we might have a few guides like that. Once I've got something that I like, I'm of course going to set this to guide. My sketches actually will be guides as well eventually. And then I'm going to lock this. Okay, so now I can move to the second pose. I'm going to turn on the onion skin. And so now we have our first passing pose. And so in this pose, I need to make sure to select the sketches layer. I'm going to start with the head again and the eye. And nothing has really changed much here. I've got the same body, same ears. Just going to like quickly add this stuff in. I might change my onion skin color. Maybe something like that, since I'm using blue. And let's see. So then for the passing pose, I'm going to take this right leg and it's just going to go straight down. Okay, so the leg that was in front, and I kind of lost a little volume there. So let's try to recapture that volume. It's a little bit thicker here. So that first leg is just straight down. The left leg that is behind is coming through, so we're taking a step. And so we can show a little bit of that in the front if we want to, and then we want to show that the leg is raised. And they might be like completely overlapping, they might be overlapping just a little bit. It kind of depends on what you want to do with the character, but that's going to be our basic legs. And then for the arms are as sort of like straight down as they would be at any point during the walk. So the arm is just going to be like this. And then the other arm on the other side will be like that too. I lost a little bit of volume here, so let's add in a little bit more. And then we can toggle our onion skin and flesh out this sketch just a little bit. And I still haven't really found the shape of the head yet, but I'll sort of work that out when I go back and add in the final inking later. Hopefully I'll have that worked out. Okay, but we've got the eye in the same place, our mouth will be here, and I think the head is like this a little bit. Something like that. Okay. So we are still leaning a little bit forward. That's okay. Let's go to our second contact pose. So we're going to go to the next frame. I'm going to toggle my onion skin here. I'm going to move it up just a little bit. Okay. So now our front leg, our right leg, has moved back. So our body is moving forward. So the leg that is stationary on the ground is now behind us because our body is moving forward. The left leg comes through and it's now the forward leg. So we go from right leg forward, left leg back, we're passing, and then now the right leg is back and the left leg is forward. Again, you can have a little bend here depending on the style of the character. So we're taking this right leg. Let me make sure I have my brush. And so the right leg is going back. And we want to make contact with our ground here. And we might have a little bend. And now our left leg is going forward. We don't want to go too far beyond the body, but basically somewhere in here. And I'm using that little bottom guide as kind of where I want my legs to go. I'm going to have to clean up some of these later, but that's okay. Let's add in the body here. And now our arm, which again, remember the arm is swinging opposite of the legs. So if our right leg is back, our right arm is forward. So this right arm is going to swing forward like that. Basically what we want there. Got the head here, our eye, just sketching, just going through. Okay, so we've got our second pose. Now I kind of want to go back actually, and I'm realizing that this is too far down. I'm just going to go back to our first passing pose and bring this leg up just a little bit. It's a little bit too far down. And so let's keep going. Okay, so we have one more of our main poses. So I'm going to hit F7 again. And let's take a look at that. So this is the reverse passing pose. So now our right leg is bent and our left leg is solid on the ground. So let's draw our right leg first. So it's bending straight back like that. And then our left leg is solid on the ground here. And so then we got the body. And our arm is going to be in a neutral position again. And here's the head. I'm going to turn down the smoothing a bit. Okay. And we got our ears. Just sketch these parts real quick. Okay. So now I'm going to toggle off our onion skin for a second. And I'm going to hide the guides. And I'm going to turn on loop. And I'm just going to take a look at this. It's not going to look good yet, but it's just going to give me a sense if I look basically kind of natural. And it looks okay. Let's add some frames in here. So I'm just going to use F5 to add an extra frame to each one of these. And then I'll increase the loop here. Okay, so it's not beautiful yet, but we do get a sense of forward motion. Yeah, it actually doesn't look too bad. When we start to add in the ups and downs, we'll see if it looks natural. We may have to go redo some of our key poses, but we should be okay. So we got to add in our ups and downs. I'm going to try to do that quickly so you guys will have time to work. But we're just going to add an up and down real quick in between each one of these poses. And then I might skip inking for now and do it later because we are taking up some time. But let's go ahead and do it. So we're just going to go pose by pose. I'll bring my guides back in. And so right here is where I'm going to want to add in my first up pose, or no, down pose. So I'm going to hit F7. Whoops. Oh no, that's fine. I'll hit F7 and make this a new keyframe. And then I could turn on my onion skin here. I might want to just look at the previous pose, or I might want to look at just the next pose, or both. But we also have our guides, so we can use those as well. So if we're moving down, here you might want to decide, if I move the head all the way down to this eye line, that's going to be pretty dramatic. So we might want to add in another guide to make it more subtle. It's kind of up to you how far we want the character to go down. I'm just going to start with that just to kind of make it simple. So if we start, actually I think that's going to be, the head is so big the way I'm drawing it now that if I move the whole head down here, it's going to be really dramatic. So let's add a line in between. I'm going to select the guides and unlock it real quick. And then I'm just going to put a guide right here. And I'll put a little guide up here for the up. Okay, so that'll be a little less crazy. So I'm going to lock guides again and choose sketches. So I'm going to move the head down here. And I want to keep the same volume. So I should keep the same volume. It's going to come down a little bit. And the same basic shape. And so the eye is going to come down. Ah, that's where the eye is. The eye is here, so it should be down here. And here's the mouth. And let's see, that looks kind of crappy, but that's okay. Let's just keep going. And so then our ear is going to come down a little bit. So our ears are going to be up there somewhere. And then our body is going to come down a little bit. So we'll come down like that. I didn't really bring the head down enough, did I? Let's see. No, I just kind of lost volume on the head. So that's a good thing. I'm just going to start this over. So I'm going to hit F6. Oops. Or maybe I have to hit... Oh, nope. Nope. Shift F6. Nope. Sorry, I'm usually on a Mac. My key commands are not what I'm used to. Let's just clear this frame. And then... Okay. Let's try that one more time. So we want to make sure to actually move the entire head down. I'm going to get rid of this onion skin here just so we can see the whole thing. Make sure I have my brush selected. So we got to move down. So we got to make sure we go below. I think I made the head too big in this, but too late to start over. Okay, so now we're down here. We can bring our body down a little bit. There we go. There's our eye. Now our eye has to come down too. Here's our mouth down here. And so now we can do the ears. And so now for our down pose, our front leg is the most bent because we're like moving forward. So our back leg is like pushing off and our front leg is bent. So the front leg is going to be bent as much forward as it can be. And our foot for the front leg is still on this like foot line here. The back leg is completely off the ground because we've just pushed off. So our back leg has pushed us forward. I sent it a little bit too far back there. The back leg has kind of pushed us forward, and so it's completely off the ground. So let's see. They're a little bit too far apart, but we can fix that later. Okay. And then our arm is sort of halfway in between all the way back and neutral. So this could be a good place for our onion skin to check the position of the arm. So the blue is our arm back, this green is our arm in the middle, and so it's going to be kind of in between those two, somewhere in there. And then our front arm might be a little more visible. So maybe it'll be out like here, something like that. Okay. That looks okay. let's keep going. So we're going to move ahead. So that was our first down. So now we'll go to our first up. I'll go to this keyframe and add in a new frame here. And then we're just going to go up a little bit. So make sure I have my brush. I'm going to draw the head up here. And move the eye up here a little bit. The ears are going to go above this ear line. And then we have our mouth right here. Okay. Let's get the head shape in a little bit. Okay, and then our body's going to be up from where it was. So we'll move the body a little bit above the body line. Something like that. And so now our front leg is about to touch the ground. So our right leg is like pushing up. So we're passing through, and our left leg is still up, but it's about to hit the ground. So our left leg is kind of like moving forward and right above the ground line. And our back leg is moving back a little bit, and then it's kind of on its tippy toes to emphasize that it's pushing forward. It's kind of hard. I should have chosen a different color for this, but that's okay. Okay, so let's find that this is a little bit more in here, like that. And then for our arm, it's just moving slightly forward, again, in between our two positions. So we'll move the arm in like that, and you can see, okay. So it's starting to look a little more natural. Let's go in, we're just gonna add a couple more of these guys. So we're gonna go to our second down pose. And so we're just gonna repeat this, but the legs are gonna be a little different. So we're gonna bring the head down a bit, bring the eye down here, bring the mouth down. And then our ears are going to be below the ear line. Okay, that looks okay. And so for our second down pose, our left leg is now going to be bending a little bit, and our right leg is going to be up in the air. So we're kind of switching our weight. And the right arm is going to be forward a little bit. So we'll move the right arm forward, and our let's turn this back here a little bit. Okay, so our right leg is now up like this. And our front leg starts to bend as we move our weight forward. And I might want to flatten out the foot there. And then actually we got to move these guys a little bit down. Let's do the body first. So let's get the body down here first. Okay, and then, so this guy's back here. This guy is like that. Okay. I'm getting a little sketchier because I just want to try to wrap it up. But let's move our arm back just a bit. Okay. Okay. So we just have one more, and we'll make this look a little bit better when we add our inks later. So now we're basically doing the last up pose. So our body's going up again. Now we're pushing off from the left leg, and our right leg is in the air. So we're moving up again. So I'm going to go up here. And we're going to move the eye up above that eye line. Move the mouth up a little bit. Did I forget to draw the mouth? Yeah, I didn't draw the mouth on this one. Okay, our ears are going to go above the ear line. And our body's going to be a little bit up. And our right leg is now starting to shift. the weight, and our left leg is pushing off in the back. Okay. And they probably need to be a little bit more forward than that, but that's okay. And then our arm is kind of like back here in between the two arms. Need to bring it down a little bit more. Okay. So let's take a look at this in the preview mode. Okay, so that's our sketch. We're getting the right motion. There's obviously a lot of work that needs to go into the detail, but I'll work on that later. Since we've already taken up a bunch of time, I want to give you guys time to work. So I'm going to stop here. If you guys have any questions, we can go over them. The next thing I would probably do is work on the timing. So I would like go through and probably double up all these frames just so I have a little bit more time. And so that kind of feels a little bit more natural. Then I'd probably go through and like finesse certain poses that don't look super, you know, right? Like this kind of goes too far. I bring that back in a little bit. So I really want to do a lot of sketching and really get the motion down before I commit to actually drawing the details. Because when I draw the details, I want them to actually look right. I don't want them to look super sketchy and weird like they do now. But once I get that down, I can go back and draw over everything with my whatever color, black or whatever I want to use. Okay, I'm going to stop the video here.